So we're going to take a look today through a song I just finished a couple of days ago. This is, I'm going to be honest, one of the more challenging songs I've played on for a fair while. This is a really interesting structure. It's quite a long song, 5.5 minutes. That's not the challenging part. The tricky part is that the verse pattern, there's sort of two patterns in the song. Verse pattern is alternating bars of 7/4 and 4/4. So you've got a bar of 7, D major, and then a bar of 4 with B flat over D. That's relatively consistent throughout the piece. You hear that progression a fair amount, and then there's a chorus section, albeit it's instrumental at that part, which alternates between 6/4 and 4/4. So I'll show you that in a moment. Here's a quick snippet of the main groove, which is the verse. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1 and 2. You could count that second bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you could say it's 7/4, 4/4, 4/4. Either way, you've got this alternating pulse going throughout. And when I received the track, it's got drums, acoustic guitar, and all the vocals in place. I added a bass part on there just so I could feel the low end as I was going through. That won't be the bass part that's left on there. There'll be a different session bass player called in to do that. So I'll start going through the bits of the track and show you what we came up with. So the overall brief of the song was to make it sound big in places, atmospheric in others, otherworldly in others. So having heard the track, I've charted it out. I've made my little kind of verse, chorus, bridge structures. I've written where the different lengths of the bars are. Over the intro and in the instrumental D to B flat over D sections, I wanted to put a heavy riff in. The song could definitely take it. There was enough space, and I felt that would be a good match for it. Writing riffs in 7/8 isn't something that people practice very much, so it took a little while to dig around for one, but I found a pretty meaty one, which was over the D to B flat going. I'll show you how that sat against the track. This was the first part I added after the bass guitar. That's where the vocals come in. So at that point I back away from the riff. I think every 8 bars I'd add a sort of heavy sustained D. I mean drop D as well, just to give it a bit of weight on the bottom end there. And that riff, I played that pretty much every time that riff occurred, that chord progression occurred throughout the song where there was no vocal. So that's the main thing that comes to kind of hit you again and again. I'm going to double track it, and here's how it sounds double tracked. You see the reason for changing guitar is a different tone, different setting on the Kemper as well. So it's a darker sounding guitar but with a brighter sounding amp. A pan the 2 hard left and hard right, so when that comes in it really gets you. And that's the idea of changing guitars, changing amps all the way through a song like this, so you've got different sounds coming in each speaker. So on to the next bit. So over the same section, having put a couple of heavy track guitars, I wanted something much more ambient that's going to sit tucked away in one of the speakers and kind of give that otherworldly feel. So this is a heavily affected, there's a fair amount of tremolo, delay and reverb. You hear that kind of pulsating in and out. Now here this is just spacious chords, D major to B flat, to another D major, to another B flat. So you've got a bit of kind of voice changing going on in there, just so you're not repeating the same 2 chords, and you've got just a bit more movement there. Here's how that sounds against the track. pretty consistent bed. So throughout the song, that's quite low in the mix, but it's just one of those little layers. In the mix, you could kind of mistake it for keyboard tone if you didn't hear it isolated. But it adds something in one of the speakers, and it kind of goes in the opposite direction to the heavier riff, so it creates another sound. There's one more part I'm going to add to the section, which I'll show you now. Okay, so at this point we've got a couple of heavy guitars panned left and right. We've got the kind of tremolo pulsating tucked away in one speaker. In the other speaker, I'm going to put a kind of almost funky wah-wah part. So I've got a wah-wah. Well, you won't have to trust me, you can hear it. So in that, I want to counter the higher part I've just played with a sort of melody part. And again, you can still hear this bar of 7 on the D going to the bar of 4 on the B flat. So that would hear it sound like this when it's all put in. And so on. So I put that in every kind of second half of every verse. Again, it's another layer that doesn't sound like anything else that's there. Just creates a bit of interest before the chorus comes in. So onto that. Okay, so to start the chorus going, a pair of double-tracked rhythm guitars. I'll just show one of them here. At this point it changes to 6/4, so we've gone 7/4 and 4/4 in the verses. We've got 3 bars of 6/4 B minor. I'm going to play these pretty much as just two small 2-note chords, so as not to clutter things up because the tones are quite heavy. To B minor, to B flat with a flat 5, and to B minor over A, and to G. And I'm playing an inversion there with just the 5th and the root with the 5th on the bottom, so you get that movement up. I'll show you how that sounds against the track. So you can hear there 3 bars of 6/4 and then 2 bars of 4/4 at the end as it goes to the G. Because we're going into a solo section after that, I just built up the final G. And just opened it up slightly there. You'll hear there's a very slight phaser on this sound. I put it on one of the rhythm tracks, not on the other. It's a nice kind of little trick just to make them sound a bit more different to each other, even though the guitars and amps are different. If you get a bit of swirl in one speaker, it works quite nicely. So I'll show you the other parts in the chorus now. Okay, so with the heavy rhythms done in the chorus, there's 2 other bits I wanted to add, kind of one hard right, one hard left. Back on the wah-wah for the first of those, which gives a kind of consistent feel between verse and chorus. Some small, just 3-note voicings. So B minor in there. There's the B flat with a flat 5, a B minor over A, and then G. So with the rhythm I'll play, you'll hear it sounds a bit like this. So one final part for the chorus, which the producer requested a kind of dark sounding melody over this. Now the chords are quite dissonant in a really great way. The rhythm's in 6/4, so it's also slightly jarring because it's alternating between 6/4 and 4/4. So I wanted to find a really, really dark, sort of sinister sounding melody with a suitably sinister sounding tone as well. So I found this kind of sound. It's got an octaver on it, quite heavy delay and heavily reverb. And with those descending chromatic chords of B minor to B flat to A then to G, I came up with pretty dark sounding, right? So I'll show you how that sounds in the track. request from the songwriter was that going into the chorus section, could I kind of have howling sort of feedback come in? Now the way I did that was kind of a trick out of the Foxy Lady book, I guess, which is that kind of sustained rattling chord. So with the same sound that I was about to play in the chorus, just hold the B flat. Do that. I then did something I very rarely do. I actually copied it in software. I normally would just play something again, but I copied it, panned them hard left and right, ever so slightly shifted one against the other, so you get this big kind of stereo feed in, which sounded like, you'll kind of hear it just as the chorus enters. Kind of shows you something's coming. Really simple thing to do, but just has an effect for kind of ushering in the chorus with that big bang. So there's a short solo section after the first chorus. In playing the chorus part, I ended up kind of improvising a melody with the same chorus sound. I liked it enough to keep that, and then I thought I'd double that on the slide and just mix the slide a bit higher. So the slide is the prominent thing you hear, but the tone that you heard within that kind of very dissonant chorus sound is still there underneath, panned somewhere else. So here's how the slide part came about. Now after the second chorus section, you're into kind of a 2-minute build up over the outro. There's no more vocals from this point. Now rather than try and do a big 2-minute solo, which would really need to take something to hold the listener's attention over that duration, I wanted to build it up for a series of separate sections. So about 8 bars after this, I was going to reintroduce the slide guitar solo. Before I did that, I wanted to build it up with an atmospheric part, again over the D to B flat 7/4 to 4/4 section. I put a rotary onto a kind of crunchy guitar tone. Now by letting all those notes ring together, it creates a real atmospheric sound. It's one of those odd riffs where the lower note is on the higher string, so it messes with your brain a little bit as you're playing with it, but it sounds like this in the track. So at the outro of the track now, and this is kind of where all the culmination of the guitar parts come together, I wanted to give the producer as many options as possible here. So I added another rhythm track. They might use this in addition, or they might use this instead of some of the others. This has got a heavy delay on it. It's a dual delay, so it's got a quarter note and a dotted eighth note on it. But a fair amount of crunch behind it. Now I was playing pretty simple eighth notes. It kind of creates that galloping feel over the D to B flat again in 7/4/4/4, and then as it opens up I went to just a small 3-note chord here, which is just a D power chord, and then raised the fifth and you've got the B flat over D. So that sounds like this in the track. The final part I added was to add a melody over the outro section. I did this in 2 parts. One's an octave melody and one's more kind of a solo-like at the end. The key I wanted to give here was an extra section, even though the underlying chords are the same, by introducing a melody that you've not heard before, the listener kind of hears it as it's something new. So over the D to B flat again, and then I didn't jump up an octave, I kind of jumped up an octave and a third-ish. So basically started playing a harmony, but again in octaves. So again, it's a pretty strong melody. It's not particularly busy. There's an octave on the sound, so it's quite thick sounding. Here's how it sounds in the track. final part, while the last octave was ringing out, I put on a new track with the same sound, just a unison bend line, which just kind of creates a big ending effectively. So it's, and the track sounds like this. So as I said at the start of the track, that was one of the most challenging sessions I've done in a long time, but immensely satisfying job to work on. I didn't play many long sections of the track in this video, but the way the lyrics and the vocals sit around the harmony and the changing time structures is just brilliant. I can't wait to see the end result of this. They might not end up using all the guitar parts, but as I say, that's kind of their choice, and my role here is to give the options of what I said. So really great song to work on. Really look forward to seeing how it comes out, and I hope that was an informative look.